Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology, creator of the Salesology prospecting method, and I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. Today, my very special guest is Gary Schwartz. He is the founder of What Great Looks Like. And so many times when businesses fail to meet their revenue targets, the finger pointing starts. So the CEO asks leadership what happens, and marketing points at sales and says sales isn't closing the leads we give them. And then sales points right back and says marketing isn't giving us enough leads. And it doesn't have to be that way. Gary is a B2B sales and marketing leader. He has built aligned go-to-market teams that focus on outcome-driven goals, opportunities, and pipeline. So welcome, Gary Schwartz. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, thanks so much, Wendy, for the kind introduction. I'm super happy to be here today.
Okay, so let's begin at the beginning, as we always do. How did you become the founder of What Great Looks Like? And by the way, that is a great name. How did you become the founder?
Oh, thanks so much. The story really starts probably about 20 or more years ago. As you noted in the introduction, I've been a sales leader, I've been a marketing leader, and I recall interviewing for a head of marketing role in a London-based software company. At the end of the hour, the CEO turned to me and said, "Marketing is just leads." And I thought, okay, I don't need to continue this conversation any further. Thanks for letting me know that I don't need to interview with you anymore. And what I had seen before as a sales leader was a marketing organization that worked in a silo. They created messaging for us, and it had no bearing on what we actually saw and what actually resonated when we were speaking. And I realized that marketing and sales often work in silos. And as you noted in the intro, when things go wrong, there's a focus on, well, you're not giving us enough leads, and you can't close the leads that we give you. And both of those people are wrong in their approach. And what really needs to happen is that focus on outcome-driven metrics. And what great looks like comes from, I've seen what bad looks like in a lot of organizations. I've seen what great looks like, and my mission is to bring great into B2B organizations.
Okay, so then I have to ask the obvious two questions, which is, you kind of told us a little bit what bad looks like. Maybe you could give us a little bit more, but we all probably know, but you can give us a little bit more. And then what does great look like?
Well, maybe I can give you an example of both in the same paragraph here. As I noted, I've been in organizations, I've been a salesperson where marketing just creates their messaging, does everything in a silo, and delivers it to sales. Here you go. And what I've done in organizations, what I've learned to do is marketing doesn't talk to customers, right? Marketing has an asset alongside them that, if they only used well, could make a huge difference in the business. And that asset is the sales organization, who spends all of their time talking with customers and prospective customers. Those people know what resonates. They know what their customers want, because the best salespeople know how to ask questions. So where I've worked with my marketing teams to test messaging and validate it with the sales organization, it does a number of things. One, it builds trust. And I think that's one of the big issues in those companies that are dysfunctional, is there's no trust between marketing and sales. So you're building trust because marketing is saying, you guys talk to customers. Tell me, does this work? And then when they agree on the messaging that works, that salesperson is bought in. And when other salespeople ask, what do you think of the messaging? They're going to share, hey, they worked with me. They're listening to us. And it creates buy-in from the rest of the sales organization, starts to build that trust between the two groups. That trust is a big component of what great looks like because it brings collaboration and it makes those teams realize that they're not enemies. They're working together to deliver on the business goals.
Okay. So do you ever have marketing directly interview customers?
Yes, and that's in conjunction with normally with the customer success organization. Marketing learns so much, and it's one of my favorite things to do. Even in my leadership roles, I love to talk to customers because I learn so much from them about what works, how do our products deliver success to them, and it's an invaluable opportunity for marketing to do that. So often I like my marketing teams to interview customers for success stories and so on, and to understand better. It's just not something they do all day long in the same way that sales does. So marketing totally should do it, but they still need to work closely with sales because it scales in a different way.
Okay. So I'm really curious about the types of questions that you ask when you have a marketing team doing those interviews, because interviewing customers is actually one of the things that we have our clients do as part of the process to create their prospecting messaging. So I'm curious about the questions that you're asking.
I'm more than happy to share on that. So for me, storytelling is a huge component of what I do, what I lead marketing teams to do. And the storytelling has to catch their interest at the very top of that. And the best way to do that is by helping people understand the why behind the story. So the first thing we ask the customers is to try to understand, well, why did you choose this product? What were your challenges? What was unique about the product, the company? Why did we make a difference for you? And oftentimes, I like to say, people are just trying to do their jobs, right? And they're trying to hit their targets. And that people choose vendors because we understand your problem. We have a solution to your problem. You're going to love working with us, but it starts with that problem. And that problem is generally tied to people's objectives. How am I going to achieve my targets? How am I going to get my bonus? And how can you help me do those things? So in the interviews, we try to get to that why, which says, why was this a priority for you so that you chose us? What problems were we solving? And then once we have that, then we can talk about how the product solved those problems or how the business solved those problems. And then from there, we want to get metrics to understand the results, because that's something that people, once they've decided they want to work with you with their gut, you need to help them rationalize that decision. And those metrics help them share, these are the kind of results that we can get by working with your business. So the story that we're looking to tell in a customer success story is founded on that why, followed by how, and then what were the results.
Okay. So do you ever dig into the emotional context behind the why? One of the questions that we have our clients ask is how did you feel about that? Because I want to hear, the before and after, like I was miserable and now I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. You definitely want to tease out, that emotional impact. And that's part of I like to say that people want a good night's sleep. If I can give people a good night's sleep with my product or service, I've hit the mark with that. And that's where that emotional component comes in. Absolutely, we would want to tease that out because that really gets to the why. People make decisions on an emotional basis, on a gut level basis, and we want to help drive them to that with our storytelling and then let them rationalize it later when we get into more of the details.
Okay. So we were having a really interesting conversation before I hit record. We're having another interesting conversation, but I want to go back to the previous one, which was about leads. And as we referenced at the beginning of this interview, the finger pointing that happens, marketing says, you're not closing the leads we give you, and sales says, you're not giving us enough leads or good leads. And you reframed that. I said that I think it hinges on the definition of like, what's a lead? So that's my first question for you. What's a lead? But then also you had a really great reframe about that.
Well, it's a really, really good question, and one I get asked a lot. Leads, I'll define a lead as a means to an end. How's that for a counterintuitive definition of what a lead is?
Okay.
And there's a number of things that are involved in why leads are important. And I don't minimize the value of leads because what we're doing is we're identifying people who are in a buying behavior, in a buying motion. And that's the goal because not everybody in your TAM, and I'll define TAM for you, the total addressable market. So when we set out as a business, here's the group of businesses that should buy from us. But not all the companies in that group are actually in market, are actually looking for a solution or have a problem that you can solve. So we're looking for people who are in active buying motions. And it's not just people, because it gets more complex. Today, the way that buyers buy, it's changed considerably over the last 5 years. Individuals often don't make the decisions by themselves. There are buying committees. And so really what I'm looking for are companies that are in a buying motion, that identifying the people in that buying committee to get them into a conversation with us. So now we've gone way beyond the idea of a person being a lead. And so people are still important. But oftentimes people don't want to fill in forms because guess what? Everybody knows that if I fill in a form and download a white paper, I'm going to get a call from somebody probably before I've been able to read that 10-page white paper. Did you like our white paper? And so people are reticent about filling in forms. But companies that are in a buying motion do visit your website. They do research. They look at you on other sites. Third-party review sites are a great place to be. But let's talk about the lead. So a lead starts with an identification. Person fills in a form. It could be contact us. It could be schedule a demo. It could be download the white paper. And as soon as I know about that person, the marketing automation tools allow me to score the quality of that lead, of that person. If they're engaging with a lot of our material, they're going to webinars, we see them at trade shows, they'll get a higher score. And so the industry has created a term called the MQL, the Marketing Qualified Lead. Typically, that's what would get handed over to sales. Now, depending on how good the scoring system is, those people could be more well qualified, they could be less well qualified. And I think that's where a lot of these conversations about rubbish leads starts to come in. And you get into an argument about quality versus quantity. Now, I'm going to argue that leads aren't the key metric. We'll come to that. But the point is, there's a way for us to measure. And then the important thing is measuring conversion rates, because that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to move from what the company, what marketing thinks is a qualified lead, to what sales thinks is a qualified lead, and the sales qualification is different than the marketing qualification. All marketing can do is really see, have they engaged? Are they looking at us? Do we think that means that they're buying? Sales will ask different kinds of qualification questions. Do they have a need? Do they have a timing? BANT's qualification, budget, authority, need, and timing are things that the sales organization or the people who do the cold calling, the sales development or business development representatives will ask those questions. And then when they understand that person is qualified and in a buying motion, or they represent their company that's buying, then we create an opportunity. We assign a value to that, and that goes into qualified pipeline. My argument is that talking about leads is they're a means to an end, but it's way too early to be meaningful. What marketing should be focused on is what sales really cares about, which is building qualified pipeline to hit their targets. And so aligning the teams, and I call these OKRs as opposed to KPIs. So I know I'm acronym letter soup today, but OKRs stands for objectives and key results. Those are impactful outcome-driven metrics. KPIs are key performance indicators. They tend to be leading indicators as to whether we're going to hit those objectives and key results. But to me, marketing should be focusing its OKRs on pipeline, on the number of opportunities that then is handed off to sales so that sales can go after the most qualified opportunities, those people that are most likely to buy with them. And this is where marketing and sales need to collaborate on how do we get to that point where we're working on the same things.
Okay. So I'm going to ask our special guest, Gary Schwartz, to make us a glossary of all of his acronyms, and we are going to include that in the show notes for our audience so they can follow along. Will 100%. You do that for us? Okay.
100%. I hope that wasn't too too crazy.
No, it was great, but we just need the glossary, so we'll get that from you later. So I'm going to pause now for a word from our sponsor. When I come back, I want to continue this conversation that we're having about leads and pipeline development with our special guest, Gary Schwartz. But now we have a word from our sponsor, the Salesology Vault. And just about every guest that I've interviewed on the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast has had a gift for our listeners. And so what we've done is we've taken all of those gifts and we put them all in one place just for you. We call it the Salesology Vault, and it's packed full of free gifts from sales leaders, sales experts, marketing gurus, revenue generation experts. And we add another gift every single week. Every time we release a podcast, we release them on Monday, we add a gift. So you can log in as often as you'd like. You can download as many gifts as you'd like. It's all free. So the link to the Salesology Vault is in the show notes. As soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link. You'll be glad you did. And I am back with my special guest, Gary Schwartz, who is the founder of What Great Looks Like. And we are talking leads. So let me ask you this question, because where does this enter into your framework? How the salesperson, that BDR, actually handles the conversation when they are handed a lead. Because what I see a lot is the salesperson, the BDR, gets that lead. Somebody has clicked on a lot of links, downloaded a lot of stuff, maybe even filled in a contact form. But the contact form didn't say, call me because I'm ready to buy. It said something else. And then the salesperson calls them up and says, hey, looks like you're ready to buy. And then that lead evaporates because they weren't ready to buy and the conversation wasn't handled properly.
Well, I would say S- Stalking is poor behavior on the part of people who are calling and following up on leads. I've worked with folks who contacted people after they downloaded a white paper and said, "Hey, I saw you downloaded that white paper." And the response they got was, "No, I didn't." And they said, "No, no, it's here. It's in my forms." And what they created was a conflict because that person, to your point, wasn't ready to buy. They weren't ready to talk to anybody. They wanted to read a piece of content that was behind the form. And so I think when people raise their hands and fill in a contact me form, it's okay to say, "Hey, thank you for submitting that form and asking us for contact." But discovery questions are really the way to go here. Let's try to understand, what were you looking for? Why did you request content? Or I'm sorry, why did you request contact? And how can we help get you what you need? Now, even if they didn't fill in a contact form, but we determined for whatever reason, because the lead scoring said this person is marketing qualified, you're still not going to call them and say, "Hey, you downloaded all this content." But what you can say is, "I'm Gary from What Great Looks Like, and we're on a mission to help companies increase sales by aligning their go-to-market teams." And when you approach it in that kind of way, the person is as likely as not to say, "Wow, what a coincidence. I was just all over your website yesterday." And at this point, you can start to ask them, right? We're going through, it's almost the same as interviewing customers after the fact. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about the problems you have. Let's talk about your key objectives for the year. I once worked with a salesperson who, after doing the let's get to know each other part of a sales visit, she said, "Hey, could you tell me what your top 3 objectives are this year? Because if I can't help you with those, let's not waste each other's time." And I found that to be one of the most effective ways to talk to people, because what she was saying to them is not, "Hey, I'm here to sell you products." What she said was, "I'm here to understand and solve your problems. If I can do that, great. If I can't, well, that's okay too." And so getting those people to get the person on the other side of the phone to open up and share where their needs are, to me, is the most effective way. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to mention, um, because this is part of my process. You said at the start that those business development representatives sit in sales. Now, my suggestion and where I've seen success is where that team sits in the marketing organization. Now, when you do this structurally, the leads stay in marketing, right? They're not passed over to sales. They're passed over to your business development representative, who's part of your marketing team. It's important that they sit in marketing. They hear what marketing talks about. They don't have to go to all the meetings, but they get the messaging, and they are in effect your brand ambassadors. Most times they're the first people from your company that your prospective customers will talk to. Now, they can do that same questioning, that same understanding, and that same qualification. Where I've seen this done well, the next step is, once they determine, yeah, that person is ready, they're in a buying motion, they're ready to meet with my sales team. Then I've had them set, another acronym for you, an IQM, which is an initial qualifying meeting that the BDR, business development representative, this is alphabet soup today, and the salesperson both attend. So now we've got a situation where marketing's not passing over leads to sales. Marketing is working with sales to create this initial qualifying opportunity. Sales attends it. At the end of that meeting, the sales rep can say, "Yeah, that's qualified. We're going to put that in our CRM and we're going to work that. We're going to add it to our pipeline." Or they can say no. But the idea is, if the BDRs are doing the right thing, probably 80% of those initial qualified meetings will be accepted by the sales team. And then here's the kicker. I don't incentivize the BDRs on setting meetings, because just like I can make any lead a lead, I can make any meeting a meeting. They're now incentivized. Well, what I pay them on is how many opportunities are accepted by the sales team. So I'm driving their behavior, not just to create meetings, but to create good meetings that they're going to get paid on when the salesperson accepts it as an opportunity. And what we've done is we've created a forcing function for marketing and sales to work together, not on leads, but on outcomes, which are pipeline and accepted opportunities. This is how we structure that to change the conversation. It's no longer, they're not closing our leads. They're not giving us good leads. Now the conversation is, how do we work together to create opportunities? For the BDRs who, let's face it, most of them want to be salespeople when they grow up. This creates a mentor-mentee relationship where the BDR, in order to get paid, has to understand what the salesperson's looking for to create a qualified opportunity. And this is where we start to see things really accelerate in a positive way.
Okay. So I want to know from you, as somebody that has built go-to-market teams, give me some do's and some don'ts for our listeners that either already have a team and want to grow it, or maybe they're just in the process of building their first go-to-marketing team. Do's and don'ts.
Okay, cool. Well, here's some of the do's. Incentivize people in compensation plans that will drive the behaviors that you're looking for in the business, that drive the impact you're looking for in the business. So incentivize people, pay them on outcomes. You pay salespeople on their quotas, on their sales targets. Pay your BDRs on creating qualified opportunities for the sales team. That's a do. The corresponding don't pay them on meeting setting, because what they will do if they're paid on meetings is they'll generate a ton of meetings, because that's what they'll get paid on. Pay them on opportunities that are accepted by sales team, and that is what they will work to deliver. So that's a do. Another do is change the way you think about leads. Leads are a means to an end. They are not the end. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the end is those business-driven outcomes, which is pipeline and the number of qualified opportunities that's going to deliver that pipeline. So focus how you set your metrics so that each team and each individual's metrics roll up to and align with your business goals. The business goal is revenue. Align marketing to how marketing is contributing to revenue, not necessarily to how many leads it measures. So another do is do measure your leads, but recognize that they are merely a leading indicator. Another do is structure your team so that those BDRs report into marketing, make them brand ambassadors, and then provide that forcing function to align and work closely with the sales organization. That's going to be a key linchpin of the trust that you're building in your business. And the final do is make sure that marketing leverages the people who spend the most time in front of customers, and that's the sales organization. I don't really have many don'ts there. There's don't do what's not in the do's.
There you go. So I have really enjoyed this conversation, Gary. Tell me, if people want to find you, where can people find you?
Well, the best place to find me is on whatgreatlooks.com, our website. We've got a podcast that's available on YouTube, also coincidentally called What Great Looks Like. And you can look me up on LinkedIn. My name is one of the more common names around, so I'm very hard to stalk on the internet. But if you just type in my name, Gary Schwartz, after the /IN on LinkedIn.com, you'll come straight to me.
Okay. And for those that didn't catch all of that, it's okay, because we are putting all of those links in the show notes. So to connect with Gary, as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link, connect with Gary. And one more thing, Gary. I love what you have to say about marketing and sales. So would you do me and our audience a huge favor? Put your hand over your heart and promise me that you will come back again so we can keep talking.
100%, Wendy. I really enjoyed the conversation. And as long as your audience has value from what I have to say and what I have to offer, I'm more than happy to speak with you again.
Okay, wonderful. And so thank you all for listening to Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders with my special guest, Gary Schwartz, who is the founder of What Great Looks Like. And if you have found value in listening to today's podcast, then please think of one business owner, one sales leader, one entrepreneur, somebody that you know that you think would also find value in listening to this podcast, and please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.